Listen closely, because the moment you pressed play, something began to move in your life. There are days that pass quietly, and then there are days that call your name. Today is one of those days. I am Shi Heng Yi, and before we go deeper, I want you to feel this. You did not arrive here by coincidence. The old masters teach that guidance appears only when the mind becomes ready to receive it. When a person stands at the threshold between who they were and who they can become. In this talk, I will take you through insights most people never hear. You will learn how the Shaolin path uses the simplest moments, breath, attention, discipline, to unlock forces within you that have been sleeping for years. You will understand why certain challenges repeat in your life, why your energy shifts before major breakthroughs, and why clarity often arrives only after confusion tests your patience. There are teachings in our tradition that speak of small doors that open only once. Doors you notice only through awareness, stillness, and inner strength. By the end of this video, you will know how to recognize these doors, how to step through them, and how to protect the state of mind that appears when spiritual timing aligns with action. Stay with me until the final moment, because the last lesson I share is the one that changes how you walk through every day from now on. It is subtle, powerful, and often missed by those who rush through life. If you are ready to deepen your path and reclaim the strength that has always lived within you, then you are exactly where you need to be. Welcome to Shaolin Soulfire. Join our journey, subscribe, and continue training with us. There is a moment in every seeker's path when they realize that strength alone is not enough, and softness alone cannot guide them. This is where the Shaolin tradition begins to reveal its deeper nature. In my journey, I was taught that a Shaolin practitioner is not simply a fighter, nor only a monk. He is both a warrior who understands the weight of his own power, and a monk who respects the silence that holds that power in balance. When these two sides meet, a different kind of human being emerges. The lineage I belong to was shaped through centuries of hardship, observation, and refinement. The early monks trained their bodies not for aggression, but for clarity. A strong body keeps the mind awake. A steady breath keeps the spirit open. Each punch, each stance, each moment of stillness was designed to discipline the inner world before the outer one. When I speak about training, people often think first of muscles, speed, and endurance. But the deeper purpose is to polish the mind. When the body moves with precision, the mind becomes quiet. When the breath becomes steady, thoughts lose their chaos. Through effort, a doorway to inner stillness opens. And within that stillness, something soft appears, something many overlook. True mastery, as our ancestors taught, lives in the balance between hardness and softness. The fist can strike, but the same hand must also know how to heal. The legs can endure long hours of training, yet they must also know how to sit in meditation without restlessness. This harmony is what shapes the Shaolin path. It is why the warrior trains without ego, and the monk meditates without escape. Strength without compassion becomes destructive, and compassion without strength becomes powerless. The real path is the one that can hold both. There is a teaching that confuses many people at first. Discipline is not a cage. It is the key that unlocks the cage you didn't realize you were living in. Freedom without direction quickly becomes chaos. Freedom with awareness becomes a path. In the old training halls, the day began long before sunrise. It wasn't simply about waking early, it was about showing the mind that it no longer controlled you. Each morning, as the world still slept, the breath deepened, the body aligned, and the mind softened into clarity. Rising early was not punishment. It was a declaration: I choose my life before the day chooses it for me. This is where the paradox reveals itself. Restraint is not suppression. It is the conscious act of shaping your energy instead of letting it spill everywhere. When you choose to breathe with intention, the storms inside begin to calm. When you choose to focus on one task instead of 10, the mind becomes a sharp blade rather than a dull one. Many believe that freedom means doing anything at any moment, but that kind of freedom often leads to distraction, impulsive action, and spiritual exhaustion. Letting everything go does not make you free, it makes you scattered. What makes you truly free is the ability to say this stays, that does not. Ancient practitioners understood that mastery begins with this quiet selection. They kept only the thoughts that strengthened them. They moved only in ways that aligned with purpose. They allowed only the habits that elevated their spirit. Discipline becomes awakening when you realize it is not about restriction, but refinement. It turns daily life into practice, and practice into transformation. And in that transformation, you discover a freedom deeper than comfort, deeper than impulse, the freedom of becoming who you are meant to be. There is a reason the ancient masters placed the breath at the center of every practice, not because it calms the body, but because it awakens something much deeper. In the Shaolin tradition, breathing is not a background function, it is the gateway to energy, attention, and vitality. It is the thread that ties the physical world to the inner one. When a practitioner begins training, the first lesson is subtle. Feel your breath. Not control it, not force it, simply feel it. Because the moment you return to your breath, you return to yourself. Each inhale becomes a quiet step back into your center. Each exhale becomes a release of what never belonged to you: tension, fear, scattered thoughts, borrowed worries. With time, this simple act becomes a doorway, a way of touching the present moment without needing anything extra. When the breath deepens, the mind steadies. When the breath slows, thoughts untangle themselves. When the breath becomes smooth, the energy inside begins to flow instead of crash. There were days in the monastery when the training was intense, when the muscles trembled and the mind felt overwhelmed, but the breath never wavered. It stood like a lantern in the storm, guiding the body back to balance. That is the power of mindful presence, not escape, but anchoring. This presence transforms ordinary life as well. When you are lost in worry, return to the breath. When anger rises, return to the breath. When confusion clouds your vision, return to the breath. It is the most ancient tool and yet the most accessible. Through this gateway, clarity appears, not suddenly, but naturally. The world slows, the senses sharpen, the moment becomes enough, and in that quiet fullness, inner mastery begins to unfold. There is a quiet truth in the Shaolin path that many overlook. Movement and stillness are not opposites. They are two expressions of the same awareness. In the old temples, the monks did not meditate only when sitting cross-legged. They meditated while walking, training, sweeping the courtyard, even while preparing their simple meals. The body moved, yet the mind remained steady. This is why the forms, the steps, and the stances were never designed as mere physical exercises. They were lessons in presence. Each shift of weight, each rotation of the spine, each step across the floor was a chance to feel the moment fully. The rhythm of movement softened the mind, and the clarity of the mind refined the movement. Stillness, in this tradition, is not the freezing of the body. It is the deepening of attention. You can be perfectly still on the outside and wildly unstable within. You can also be in motion, walking, cleaning, working, and yet be rooted in complete inner quiet. True stillness has nothing to do with the muscles. It has everything to do with where your awareness rests. This understanding opens the door to daily practice. You do not need a training hall to cultivate presence. When you walk from one room to another, notice the ground beneath your feet. When you reach for a glass of water, feel the weight of your hand and the coolness of the cup. When you sit down, let your breath land gently in the center of your body. These moments, small as they seem, are powerful gates. Over time, movement becomes meditation. Life becomes practice. And even in the busiest hours, a still point forms within you, a quiet, grounded center that does not rush, does not scatter, does not lose itself. This is the stillness the Shaolin masters protect. There is a wisdom passed down through the old halls. A person cannot truly understand one side of life without meeting its opposite. Comfort means little if you have never stepped into discomfort. Freedom loses its meaning if you have never committed to discipline. The path becomes clear only when both extremes have been touched, tasted, and understood. In traditional training, this truth appears early. Some days the body is pushed into deep challenge, cold mornings, long hours, aching muscles. Other days are devoted to softness, healing, and quiet introspection. Both are needed. The harshness strengthens you, the gentleness restores you. If you tilt too far into either, the path becomes unbalanced. Strength without softness becomes rigid. Softness without strength becomes weak. This teaching extends far beyond the training floor. Look at your life for a moment. Where do you cling to comfort so tightly that growth becomes impossible? And where do you push yourself so hard that you forget to breathe, to rest, to feel? Awareness begins when you recognize the extremes you habitually hold. The middle path does not mean mediocrity. It means wisdom. It means choosing what serves your spirit rather than what satisfies impulse. It means allowing yourself rest without slipping into laziness and pushing yourself with purpose rather than punishment. It is the quiet recognition that balance is strength. When you walk this middle way, life loses its sharp edges. You stop swinging wildly between overworking and avoiding, between seeking intense experiences and collapsing into comfort. Instead, your energy becomes steady. Your decisions become clear. Your inner state becomes calm. The ancient masters knew that mastery is not found at the edges, but in the center where strength and softness meet, where discipline and freedom coexist, where the human spirit becomes whole. There is a saying in the ancient schools, the greatest enemy you will ever face lies inside your own mind. Long before a warrior steps into any outer challenge, a much deeper battle unfolds within, against impulses that pull, thoughts that scatter, and instincts that react without wisdom. This inner conflict is the true arena of mastery. In the Shaolin tradition, strength of body is respected, but it is never the final goal. You can train your muscles, perfect your movements, and sharpen your skills, yet still feel defeated by your own thoughts. The warrior learns that anger can strike faster than any punch, fear can weaken the legs more than any injury, and doubt can cloud vision more than any injury, and doubt can cloud vision more than any darkness. Training the body becomes a way to train the mind. Each stance develops patience. Each breath strengthens awareness. Each repetition carves discipline into the spirit. Over time, something shifts. You begin to notice the moment before reaction, the pause where choice appears. Instead of exploding in anger, you exhale. Instead of collapsing into worry, you ground yourself. Instead of chasing every thought, you let the unnecessary ones drift away. This is the victory the ancient masters valued most, the ability to govern your inner world. When the self is mastered, peace naturally extends outward. Conflicts with others lose their power because you no longer meet them with the same inner turbulence. Circumstances that once overwhelmed you become manageable, even neutral, because your center is no longer shaken by every gust of life. Conquering the self does not mean suppressing your humanity. It means understanding it so deeply that nothing inside controls you without your permission. And when the inner warrior stands steady, the outer world becomes far less threatening, because the true strength you carry is the quiet, unshakable mastery within. There is a gentle wisdom in the small things, a wisdom many overlook because it does not shout or demand attention. In the old teachings, the state of your surroundings is seen as a mirror of the state within. A cluttered space reflects a cluttered mind. A clean, organized environment reflects clarity and intention. This is why simple acts, sweeping a floor, folding clothes, placing objects with care, were considered forms of meditation. They were moments of grounding, moments of returning to oneself. The same is true for writing down goals or keeping a small journal of intentions. These practices may seem ordinary, but they reveal something powerful. You are choosing direction instead of drifting. You are giving shape to your path instead of letting chance shape it for you. When you commit your thoughts to paper, they gain weight, they take form, and in that form, your spirit finds alignment. Mindfulness does not appear only in silence or during deep meditation. It appears when you make your morning coffee with presence instead of hurry. It appears when you walk to work and feel the rhythm of your steps. It appears when you wash dishes, bring order to your desk, or take a moment to breathe before speaking. These are the quiet places where the inner training deepens. Consistency is the invisible thread that ties all of this together. One mindful moment can shift your mood, but many mindful moments can reshape your life. The small acts repeated daily become habits. The habits shape character, and character determines destiny. Mastery is not built through dramatic breakthroughs. It grows through steady, simple actions carried out with awareness. When you honor the small things, you honor the energy that guides your entire path. There is a quiet power in living with purpose, a power that moves far beyond personal comfort or desire. The ancient masters taught that discipline and mindfulness are incomplete if they serve only the self. True practice reaches outward, touching the world in ways that are subtle but lasting. Without this reach, awareness can become a mirror turned inward, reflecting only ego and self-interest. Every movement, every breath, every small act of attention carries energy. When guided by intention, that energy aligns with something greater. The monk sweeping the courtyard is not simply cleaning. He is practicing presence while serving the space, harmonizing his action with the flow of life. The warrior practicing forms is not only honing skill, but cultivating clarity, strength, and balance that radiates beyond himself. Purpose gives direction to the discipline, and discipline strengthens the purpose. It is natural to ask, what is my larger aim? How can my attention, effort, and energy contribute to more than my own comfort? These questions are not abstract. They are the compass of the path. They ensure that every action, no matter how small, resonates with intention. They transform routine into ritual, effort into meaning. When you align with something bigger, the challenges of life begin to shift. Obstacles are no longer meaningless frustrations. They become opportunities to refine focus, deepen understanding, and expand influence. Every act of patience, every moment of restraint, every choice to act with awareness becomes part of a larger rhythm. The greatest practitioners understood this. Power without purpose is fragile. Mindfulness without direction is empty. But when action, discipline, and heart align with a higher aim, life itself becomes a living teaching, a bridge from the self to the world, and every step forward carries both meaning and mastery. There is a stillness that cannot be taken, a quiet at the center of the self that no storm can shake. The old masters spoke of this as the heart of the path. Not a life without difficulty, but the cultivation of a mind that remains steady while difficulty moves around it. True peace is not escape. It is presence. It is being fully alive in the moment while holding a calm that comes from within. The student who seeks this peace learns to watch the storms without fear. Criticism, praise, chaos, or distraction may swirl, but they touch only the surface. Beneath lies an unmovable center, a core that has been trained through discipline, reflection, and repeated acts of awareness. Each breath, each mindful step, each intentional choice strengthens this foundation until it becomes natural, no effort needed, no protection sought. Entering any room, any situation, a person grounded in this practice carries a quiet authority, not a loud command, but a presence that signals, I know where I stand, I know who I am. The energy is subtle yet unmistakable. It is born of a life shaped by mastery of the self, by understanding the rhythms of body, mind, and spirit, and by refusing to let external circumstances dictate inner state. This peace also teaches resilience. When loss, change, or unexpected trials appear, they do not topple the center, they pass around it like wind over a mountain. The practitioner moves with the world without being swept away, because stability is not dependent on conditions but cultivated from within. To live from the core is to live with clarity, strength, and quiet confidence. It is the culmination of discipline, mindfulness, and wisdom. In this state, life can be fully experienced, its beauty and its challenge, without losing the inner ground that defines who you are and how you move through every moment. Today's message is a call to awaken, not in a distant dramatic way, but in the quiet moments of your daily life. The path of the monk and the warrior exists in every breath you take, every posture you hold, and every intention you carry. By embracing discipline as a form of freedom, by blending movement with stillness, and by giving attention to both the small and the vast aspects of your life, you begin to live with clarity, balance, and inner peace. Remember, you were chosen to see this message for a reason. Left unnoticed, its wisdom remains dormant, but when you bring it into your daily actions, your mornings, your work, your interactions, you allow it to grow, shaping your energy, your focus, and your presence in the world. Start today. Begin with one mindful breath, one intentional choice, one small act of discipline. Over time, these moments accumulate into strength, insight, and serenity. The greatest mastery is quiet, steady, and lived, not proclaimed. Carry this awareness gently into your life. Let it guide your steps, your decisions, and your responses. Let it remind you that peace is found not in escaping life, but in moving through it with presence and purpose. If this message resonates with you and you wish to continue walking this path of inner mastery, clarity, and calm, join our community. Like this video, subscribe to Shaolin Soulfire, and allow the teachings to flow with you day by day, breath by breath.